If you put Michael Jordan in today's game, he's just another superstar. You have me, Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, Damian Lillard, Trae Young, and then got
2018?
Yes.
Oh, come on. He had all kinds of help
Who?
in 2018.
So what player? I just want to know what player he had. What player he had?
Oh, he didn't need any help.
Like he wouldn't have been a force back in the days. That's
Would or would not? Would or would not?
He wouldn't have been a force.
Why is that?
He would have struggled because they was making 2 jump shots, and you know he wasn't gonna be doing no Europe to the basket like he doing Euro step to the basket.
Will Giannis take the Bucks to the final?
I still don't believe so. But I want to say a couple of things.
Also, an unnamed source that said KD said either Sean Marks and Steve Nash go, or I go.
Iverson, bothered by Lou. Iverson, how about that? It steps over Teron Lou.
NBA media, perhaps the worst part about current televised national basketball. Not the gameplay, not the officiating, not the flopping, not the super teams, but the NBA media. The people who leech off of regular human beings with irregular athletic abilities for hours upon hours upon hours a day with a plethora of different reaching topics just to have something to talk about. Think of media like this. It's a family event where you and your cousins decide to argue about things like why the Sixers continuously drive a stake through the hearts of their fans, including me, with poor decisions, poorly timed injuries, average coaching, fading stars, and questionable trades. But televised. And that's not all. They get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars and sometimes millions for it. Every day, unqualified reporters and sports writers share their basketball opinions on topics that, quite frankly, don't matter. Now, I'm not saying that these media people aren't qualified enough to have views on basketball, since by saying that, everyone across the basketball world would be unqualified, but that they're not qualified enough for their opinions to be taken as fact, because no one is. Even NBA players who become reporters give some horrible takes. Ryan Hollins. We've watched the media collectively villainize Kyrie Irving for, well, being a human being. Stephen A. Smith was so quick to rip Kyrie for his opinions on the, well, I can't say the word or YouTube will make this video about, well, I also can't say that word, but just know it involves shots. Okay, not that type of shot, but never mind. But then when Aaron Rodgers did the exact same thing, the media had nothing to say that was nearly as close to what they said about Kyrie. Kyrie was basically subjected to city girls treatment. They called him a homewrecker, disloyal, selfish, not in love with basketball, that he should retire. Now, run back everything that I just said. Everything believed about Kyrie did not come from Kyrie. We've labeled Kyrie the person as all of these negative things. We don't know who he is on a personal level. And yes, his movements as an NBA player have been out of the norm, but the media refuses to even think about how he might feel about these topics. And obviously, this isn't just the media's fault, but it's our fault as viewers too. We don't do the necessary research, nor do we have the necessary empathy as a collective to objectively go through these topics with reason and then form an opinion. As human beings, we love arguing and judging because it gives us a sense of control, but we have to understand that these athletes are people. Now, is it intriguing to watch grown men yelling back and forth at each other about a backyard sports game that has no significance to their daily lives? Yes. Yes, it is. But this video will be addressing not only how the NBA media fails to remember that these athletes are human beings who aren't perfect, but also how the NBA media changes the narrative on basketball as a whole, starting with 2 players that we are all familiar with, Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. Over the past year, we've seen Russell Westbrook's name literally been dragged and passed around through the mouths of many eager reporters and media outlets, drooling.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Seriously though, media outlets always focus on the negative with Westbrook. Humiliating backboard crashing jump shots, airballed free throws, airballs in general. There are countless worst moments compilations out of Westbrook, and many reporters and fans alike have resorted to calling this grown man out of his name, Westbrick. Okay, objectively, yes, this is very clever and very funny, but it's also uncalled for since Westbrook's play hasn't changed all that much statistically speaking. Yes, he didn't average a triple-double, and his points per game went down, but obviously playing with LeBron and no longer being the primary ball handler, his shot attempts and usage rate have dropped. In turn, meaning less production from him and his player efficiency rating dropping to the league average 15. However, the media has flipped it on Westbrook and made us think that he was in fact statistically significantly worse than years past when he's shooting about the same from the field, whether from 3 or 2, and has had similar free throw shooting percentages over the past several years. And here's something that the media doesn't tell you. In Westbrook's last 10 games, he averaged 22.2 points, 7.4 rebounds per game, and 7.1 assists per game, shooting 52.1% from the field and 41.5% from the 3. I want you to look at these stats without seeing the players. Now look. This season, Westbrook shot better from the field than Steph Curry, Damian Lillard, Paul George, James Harden, and LaMelo Ball. All guards who are considered to be better than Westbrook. Yeah, so are those players also horrible at shooting? It's funny how easily we can use numbers and a few lowlights to severely skew a narrative and bash an easily bashable player. Kevin Durant, one of the most controversial NBA players in recent memory. But why? There was a time when the NBA absolutely loved Kevin Durant. His MVP speech is often regarded as the best and most genuine MVP speech we've ever seen. He's a man who was named Humanitarian of the Year for his efforts in giving back to his community. He's a phenomenal athlete with 4 scoring titles, 12 All-Star selections, 10 All-NBA selections, and an MVP. Yet the media calls him soft for stating his opinion and taking the time to reply to haters online and joining the 73-9 Golden State Warriors team. See, that I understand. He blew a 3-1 lead to the best team in the NBA a year prior while on a Thunder team that was bound to win a ring, and then hopped on over there and won 2 rings. This is basically the same thing as divorcing your wife who you had been married to for 10 years with a kid on the way for a new supermodel. I agree with many in thinking that this decision was ring chasing and wasn't competitive and deserves to be frowned upon in the basketball community. But how does this affect LeBron's legacy? Okay, I'm being serious though. LeBron formed one of the most dominant super teams in NBA history too. He left his hometown to team up with superstars in hopes of winning.
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7.
Rings. He won 2 rings there and 2 finals MVPs. Sound familiar? Yet, while there are many LeBron haters, the media never focuses on this. Meanwhile, Kevin Durant can't get out of the shadow of his decision to join the Warriors. His unimaginable basketball skills have seemed to have been forgotten by them. His performance last year against Milwaukee in the playoffs without Kyrie and James Harden seems to be forgotten. The fact that he was 1 shoe size away from hitting a game winner that would never die in NBA history seems to be forgotten. All because of one decision and the fact that he speaks his mind. Lastly, let's talk about defense. I am sick and tired of hearing old players and media crucify today's defense. Yes, we have an increase of flopping, but statistically, defense just isn't that much worse. Here's a graph on defensive rating through the years since 1973, which is a statistic used in basketball to measure an individual player's efficiency at preventing the other team from scoring points. While it is the highest it's ever been, because with defensive rating, the higher it is, the worse you are at defense. The fact of the matter is, 90s defense wasn't that far away. Meanwhile, we are always told that 90s defense was the hardest defense ever, which just isn't true at all. Here's a graph of offensive rating through the years, which is the number of points produced per 100 total possessions. Notice how it's the highest it's ever been? Now, look at this graph charting a team's average fouls a game. Yeah. Defense was not significantly harder. While the types of foul calls have changed, the officiating has remained the same and offense has gotten unimaginably better, which is why it looks like defense is worse. A lot of times, what former players and media even say is just false or disrespectful. The hand checking that old players and media love to talk about was banned in 1979. Zone defense, which is the hardest form of defense, was illegal until the 2001 to 2002 season. Players would get called for fouls if they weren't playing man defense. Think, is it harder to play a player like Michael Jordan man to man at all times, or play in an area that allows you to conserve energy? Think. So yes, men lie, women lie, and media lies. Thanks for watching. It's Drew, signing off.